Really, the goal is just to use our stories to bring veterinary medicine to life for the pet caretakers of the world. And we're doing it because we believe that educating these caretakers is the most powerful thing that we can do to improve the life quality of all of the pets that we love. All right, good morning, afternoon. It's not even morning here. It's actually lunchtime. I don't know what time it is for you guys.
It is noon.
It is straight up noon. Welcome to Vet Tales, Dr. Natalie Keith.
Dr. Josiah Dame.
And today we're talking about kind of industry stuff / how to help you in weird urgent care / emergency situations.
Yep. Which there is a lot of gray.
Yeah,
but there's
so much gray.
some leniency with it though still. So,
yeah.
And some black and white.
Yeah, I mean, such is life. So I think first thing I wanted to do is just kind of define the difference between urgent care, 24-hour hospitals, the on-call vet, and kind of where they fit into the big picture. What about you? Said you did what now?
I've worked in clinics that have done urgent care, and
including this one temporarily, 6 months.
This one. Yeah, and then I've worked in. Well, because I was in Dallas for 3 years, there's a lot more diversity, I feel like, in the types of hospitals around us. So we had true urgent care hospitals around us. We had true ER hospitals around us. And then we had ER plus specialty around us, which are becoming more available, I think, in Oklahoma City.
Mm-hmm.
But with Dallas, there was places that would open at 6 p.m. and close at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
So, those types of places I've worked kind of closely with.
Yeah. Which I love those. I wish we had that here, but you do have to have a fairly good-sized community to support that. So,
and we'll probably get into, also, you need the staff, which is really hard.
Yes. So supporting this, the staff, the doctors, it's, the lot goes into it.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so you have these urgent care. You can also have urgent care places like what we did for 6 months was we tried just staying open till 8, which again, we ran into massive staffing issues, and it's just trying to get it to be financially solvent was way trickier than I had hoped it would be. So, which is, part of it, businesses have to stay solvent or they die. And if they die, then there's nobody here to help you. So, we mostly have in Oklahoma City, which is, 40 minutes from here, depending on where you're going and where you started from. They have some 24-hour hospital options that are kind of your specialty ER combos.
Yep. And
those are super handy. It's definitely gold standard as far as if you have an emergency after hours, that is far superior to the on-call vet. Not to say that that's not important, but that is best case scenario, especially for things that need to be hospitalized, monitored.
Yeah. And what do you mean by on-call vet? Because because that was something that was super common back in the day. Not back in the day. Sorry, you're not.
Back in the day, Josiah.
Oh, no.
I was
Natalie is not old. Veterinary medicine, I'm probably so loud.
I don't know.
Veterinary medicine has moved away from
this
from this modality for a couple reasons, but explain what it is, and then we'll talk about why.
Because I lived this life. So first of all, I grew up in rural Oklahoma, 10 minutes to the gas station, 30 minutes to the grocery store. That was just the life I lived. And we had no vet in my town, but there was one in one town over, and then a different town had 2 vets, so that was very exciting. And those vets actually would kind of rotate call.
Coalition, yes. So I'll talk about that too.
Okay, cool. Yeah, divide and conquer and so forth. Teamwork makes the dream work. But anyway, so that was kind of the situation where I grew up, and that was very normal for veterinarians to just be on call. So you would work during the day, and then you would theoretically go home at night, and then people would potentially call you with emergencies, and you go back to the clinic and try to stabilize the pet and then go back to bed. And then repeat ad nauseum.
Still common in rural Oklahoma.
God love them.
Yeah,
God love them.
Areas.
And so when I came to Shawnee, that's actually what we were doing. Dr. Trussell had already been at that lifestyle for Oh, 7 years. Well, I guess not all of it because he was in the military first and did the military German Shepherd thing for a while. But at least 5 years he'd been at that. And then we did it for another 5 years once I graduated. And essentially, that was kind of my life. So we get off work at 5:30. We were on call every other night. We split shifts, so I would take a night and he would, and then we'd switch weekends and so forth. And you would get home and you would park the car and the phone would go off and you go back to the hospital and you get home at 8 and then you'd be home from like 8 to 9:30 and you put on your pajamas and then the phone would ring again. You go back to the hospital about 10 o'clock and then you get home around midnight and at 2 o'clock somebody would call you in the middle of the night, but they weren't actually going to come in because of whatever reason, because they couldn't get the dog in the car, didn't have any funds available, or weren't actually sure it was an emergency anyway. And then you would be awake until 3:30 a.m. and then you would fall asleep until your alarm goes off at 5:45 so you can get up and do it again.
And then you have somebody who's trying to treat animals who has not slept, which is scary.
Also, let's just say you have a dog that is, let's say it's a big thing. Like, this dog just ate ant bait. This was a real emergency I had by one night, this is a true story. I had a horse, I was at the gym, and got a call, and there was a horse, and it had like 106 fever and was dehydrated, had been castrated a few days prior, and was sick. So I get up there, and I start working on this colicking. It was actually like a mule, pink mule of all things. And then I get another phone call on the emergency line, and it's a dog that has eaten ant poison, is having massive seizure activity. Mm-hmm. And so they're coming in, and then while that's happening, another horse has injured itself to the point where it's three-legged lame, and we're thinking it has a fracture in a leg. And so now it's me and my husband, and that is it.
Yeah.
And the only reason my husband was there is because I have one available to me. Mm-hmm. And so that's
where it gets to why a lot of places have moved away from it, mm-hmm. is you have one person at the clinic trying to do diagnostics on animals that you need to probably have 2 to 3 people at the clinic.
Yeah.
And that's just not possible.
Yeah.
And so people have moved away to mainly for liability.
Honestly,
I feel like.
So, just to kind of, I guess I'm just going to trauma dump right now. Because this was my life. But, so, what would happen typically? So, client calls, let's say, 10 o'clock at night. And kids in bed, so husband can't come. So now I'm going to drive into town up to the clinic, 20-minute drive. So now it's 10:30 because I had to, put on shoes and mm-hmm. a coat and get, in the car and drive up there, unlock the gate, unlock the building, turn off the alarm, go unlock the front door, let the client in, turn on the lights, warm up the blood machine, warm up the x-ray machine. Now I'm going to give the client a crash course on how to restrain their dog so that I can do a jug stick to pull blood and set a catheter on a seizing pet.
Yep.
And then we're all going to sit here for 30 minutes and wait on these blood values. Then we're going to try to set the dog up on fluids and whatever medications
mm-hmm.
it needs. But now I have to go home and sleep, and I'm going to leave your dog wildly unattended
for
the next 6 hours until we get back to work tomorrow.
It's not good for them.
It's not. And so it's not.
And by the
beats
time
a poke in the eye in the rural environment.
Yeah. It takes 20, 30 minutes to get here, 20, 30 minutes for the machines to warm up. In that time, you could have made it to a facility that was ready for you, basically.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so that's why we tend to, if it's in the middle of the night, we're like...
Now you have people that are well caffeinated, mm-hmm. and there's lots of bright lights on, and there's multiple people there. And so I think, it's just such a better model. And then on a side note, historically the veterinary industry was typically male. Mm-hmm. So most of the veterinarians that I was calling as a child were men in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. And now here I am, newly graduated, 28 years of age, getting called up in the middle of the night. I remember vividly there were these roofers. They were roofers that were moving through, and they had this little min pin dog they said was having bloody diarrhea. And I get up there, and it's just me, and now 2 men, and I'm in this exam room, and the one guy, there's seats at the back of the room, and then the door's behind me, and then the treatment table's in the middle, and the guy keeps walking behind me, And so I keep like stepping back to pretend like I'm getting things off the counter over by the door because I don't want to get trapped.
I don't like that.
And so then I get this German Shepherd that is like a trained attack dog to take with me on all my emergencies in case, because like my husband wants me to pack a gun. I'm like, I'll shoot myself before I defend myself, like on accident. This isn't going to work. And so now I've got this German Shepherd in the rooms with us, and not all dogs like my dog. And so these are the dilemmas that you're facing, and that, you know, not a lot of great things happen after 10 p.m.
No, yeah, and that's tough. Now, all that being said,
yes, okay,
while we're open, while we're open, call us, because we try to get almost everybody in if we physically can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if we're open and you have an
Call
urgent
us.
situation, we're gonna squish them in there.
Yeah, and so that little caveat. So that's kind of the on-call doctors, which. If you look at places like, my family's from New York, if y'all don't know, but my family's from Rochester, New York area, which shockingly, as soon as you get out of Rochester, New York, it's farmland. So some of my family lives on that farmland. In the past year, they have called me and they're like, hey, is this an emergency? And I have to be like, sadly, yes. And why it's sad is Rochester has 0 emergency clinics. That is a huge city.
How many? What's huge? Like,
oh gosh, let me.
Yeah,
look.
we're gonna Google it really quick for population.
But anyways,
Shawnee's like 30,000.
Way more than that.
Okay.
So, with their kind of rural area, because they live outside of Rochester, there's veterinarians who have a coalition that will do overnights.
And they just
so
rotate.
There's like 5 that rotate, but you have to be a client. There's a lot of stipulations.
Yeah, 'cause you can get in some weird situations.
So. Rochester, New York has 210,000 people in 2021.
210,000. That's 7 times the size of Shawnee.
And no ER. So they have to drive all the way to like Buffalo, but the other side of Buffalo, which is near like Niagara Falls. So like almost to Canada, they have to drive. So that's awful. So they'll call me a lot of, they have called me and they're like, hey, like, is this emergency? And I'm like, sadly, yes, you have to go drive 2 hours.
Yeah.
So like those kind of situations stink too.
And while we don't have any emergency hospitals in Shawnee,
we have them 30 to 40 minutes from Shawnee proper.
Absolutely. You can get from our driveway to the nearest emergency hospital in 35 minutes, which is like about the same amount of time it's going to take for you to call me, wake me up, get me dressed, and get me to the clinic.
Yeah.
And then you're already there with a fully trained staff.
Yeah.
So now the other thing I think is we're saying is like emergencies are more expensive, and that's a bummer, but I also understand why, because it's very expensive to staff
and keep the building lights on.
Yeah, to
like
keep it
just
going.
The building.
Yeah, like a lot of our blood machines, they have like this constant trickle effect of the reagent that's running, so just having it on is costing you money, even if you're not running any blood work in it. And so just the cost of operation for that, and you're not seeing maybe the same volume. You're not, as far as that goes, I mean, that's just kind of, it's like the difference between like, Walmart and like Dillard's, I guess, you could say, because, with Walmart stuff, you've got a high volume, so you don't have to have as high of a profit margin on it. But on these emergency hospitals, in order for them to keep the doors open, they have to charge more.
Yep.
And honestly, you'd have to pay me a lot to be up all night, every night, and missing, especially, again, a lot of the industry is female driven at this point, and we've got a lot of us have kids and other things that keep you from not wanting to be a night shift kind of doctor.
Yeah.
So
those are kind of the 3 main emergency kind of modalities.
Yeah.
Urgent cares, which are open for a portion of the day, ERs, which are open 24/7, and then on-call veterinarians.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. So now the next thing is, okay, well, how do I know what I should do or what I need?
Yeah.
And so there are, like we started off saying, gray is kind of the color theme of this conversation, but there are some black and whites.
Yeah. And just a caveat before we get into it, I always tell people this all the time. You know your pet more than I do. Like, yes, I am medically trained, but you know what they're like 99% of the time. So if you're concerned, I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And so always err on the side of caution.
I like that. When you're concerned, I'm sorry, we say that a lot.
Yeah.
And it's hard to, like, my experience with on-call was, so the client would call me and they'd be asking me, do you think this is an emergency we need to deal with tonight? And, you know,
Put you in a corner
it puts you in a corner because you're like, oh, I can't predict the future. I don't know. And so, like I remember one time there was this boxer, and this guy calls me, and he's like, the dog's traumatized his back hock somehow and is just gushing blood, and he's like freaking out, and he's had multiple bandages on it, and it's just like pouring blood and it won't stop. And I'm like, okay, we'll fix it. So we get up there, and he's got this little wrap around the dog's leg where this cut is, and we take the wrap off, and there's like one little line of blood, like you know, just this little teeny line, and we can't find the cut. And he's looking at me like, I swear I'm not crazy. And I'm like, it's fine. I don't. It's okay.
You fixed it.
Good job. Problem solved. Okay, bye. And so the dog, I don't know, you know, I think, you know, that was it. The dog was fine. And then I've had the opposite where, so I had this one lady, she calls me because she said her dog was vomiting and it had a little bit of blood in it. And I was like, meh. That happens sometimes. Like, how many times have we thrown up? Just once. And I was like, okay,
blood happens in vomit.
Not a huge deal. And she's like, well, can you still just check him out? Yeah, sure. So I get up there. I was like, what kind of dog do you have? She's it is a pit bull. I'm like, okay, you know, has he gotten anything? No, he hadn't got anything. It seems like he's acting fine. He's wagging his tail and happy. And I'm like, okay. But she wants to have him checked out. So I get up to the clinic and I open the door, and this is not a pit bull. He's 110-pound, like King Corso or something. Massive, sweet dog though.
Yeah.
But massive. And he walks in, wagging his tail, and he looks at me, and he kind of coughs, and blood spews. No. Bright red blood all across the lobby, like a paint bucket, just thrown across there. And I was like, oh, this dog is coughing up blood. He's internal hemorrhaging. Yeah. He's gotten into rat poison, and he needs a plasma transfusion in like 4 seconds, and I don't have plasma here.
Yeah.
So I literally gave the dog vitamin K shot and sent her straight to the 24-hour place that has plasma.
Who keeps those types of things.
Yeah, and I had some plasma, but I was capped at about 40-pound dog.
Exactly.
And I wasn't prepared for 110 pounds of spewing blood. I was like, this. So I think those two stories kind of contrast in terms of it can be really hard to discern from a conversation on the phone what to do. And so you kind of have to go with your gut. They have those the online things.
Yeah, and so that's a good thing to maybe utilize. So if you can't, like, we close and you can't call us to ask that question, and you're just like, it's just on the line, like, I don't know if I want to go in yet, but I just want to talk to somebody. They have websites like Just Ask, Vetster,
Ask a Vet Online,
and those are
There's
some
a bunch
of
them out there.
I actually have some colleagues that have worked for them and they really enjoy it. But basically, they're not going to be able to diagnose. They're not going to be able to, do much. But they're going to be able to say, yes, that's an emergency, or no.
Yeah, like, here's some troubleshooting
questions. Questions.
Yeah, so.
And kind of guide you to be like, yes, go spend that money at the emergency
here's
room.
how you can take a temperature on your dog. Okay, wow, it has a fever. Yes, we should, and so they can help you walk through all that stuff, and it maybe give you peace of mind, or maybe give you the shove you need to get on the road.
Yeah, exactly. What are some emergencies that you feel like we see that are like overnight?
Legit.
You do need to go. Like, this is serious.
The number one is seizures that won't stop.
Yes.
So status epilepticus. Those have to go to a 24-hour hospital, no question. That is life-threatening, and it cannot be dealt with by an on-call vet.
And I usually tell people, if the seizure lasts longer than 2 minutes, you need to go somewhere. Or if they have a seizure, they're good, and then they have another one, don't wait for the third.
Yeah, back-to-back seizures.
Just go.
Yeah.
Don't wait for the third.
Yep. And, some of it has to do with, you kind of, if you have an epileptic patient, you kind of know their norm.
Again, gray.
But, yeah, it's so gray. But once, when you have a newly diagnosed epileptic and or a dog that is just constantly going into seizures, their blood sugar will drop, their body temperature elevates. It can literally just melt their little brains.
Yeah. And we had one yesterday come in under emergency at like 2 o'clock.
Yeah, because we do emergencies as long as we're open. We'll deal with whatever.
Drove in, he just called, said I'm coming. We said great, came, we stopped the seizures, and then we watched him for the rest of the day, switched up his meds, and he went home. And
Yep. Yeah, the same. Yeah, I had one that had 3 seizures this morning and then came in. So apparently 'tis the season.
'Tis the season.
So, yeah, that's a big one. I think any Great Dane with bloating or large breed dog with any kind of bloating coupled with vomiting,
or just laying down like abnormally, just super lethargic.
If your Great Dane looks at you funny,
yeah,
that might be another time.
I was like, wait, yeah, but yeah, that's what you're saying.
Yeah, it's just like those guys. Yeah, you don't mess around because if they twist their stomachs, like you are on a time clock.
Or like trying to vomit, but nothing's coming up.
Yes.
Emergency.
Yeah.
Think emergency.
Yeah. One thing that, just to kind of flip the coin a little bit, that a lot of people hit the panic button on and you wouldn't necessarily need to go to the emergency room overnight, is a dog with frank blood in its stool. People will low-key panic. And honestly, that's really common. It needs to be dealt with, but you don't have to deal with it overnight. You can go back to your routine vet in the morning, as long as it's not with severe lethargy or we're not vomiting obsessively or, whatever the thing
still
is.
Eating, still drinking.
Yeah.
Acting normal with some frank blood in the stool, not that.
Yeah, you can wait till morning. You can wait till morning. It'll be fine.
And every time I have a frank blood room where I'm like, it's like a newer owner, I always walk in and I go, dogs do this.
Yeah, dogs do this.
They break blood vessels and they will have frank blood and it is going to be okay. And it's shocked. Almost every diarrhea dog, if it's been going on for longer than 2 days, they'll have some blood. Yeah.
And then, of course, the HGE dogs,
that's completely different. They'll be lethargic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but their blood looks, their poop looks just like blood.
Yes. Yeah, it does.
But I'm still, if they're not vomiting a ton, they're not dehydrated, it just started that night.
Yeah.
You're okay till morning. We'll fix it. Other things like that, really have to be seen immediately would be potentially C-sections, if the dog's been trying to have a puppy for a long time. But usually, again, that's an hour-long process, so you should have some clue before the end of the day that this is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
And if they start labor overnight, you may lose a puppy doing it, but typically you're safe to wait till morning. And so it depends on...
What's your timeline for like when they go into active labor?
Actively pushing? Well, okay, so I guess I would say if they're actively pushing and they have gone more than an hour without producing a puppy, you're probably going to need medical intervention. Yep.
I say about the hour mark, start looking at where you're going to go.
Yes.
Or call where you're going to go. And then if they have not had a puppy by 2 hours, you should be in a parking lot of somebody's facility. And
then, okay, so let's just talk about this ugly little elephant in the room, which is the emergency hospitals themselves are overwhelmed.
They're very overwhelmed.
And so sometimes it may be 4 or 5 hours before they can even get to you. Mm-hmm. So call before you go. And if that's the case, you may have to write it out till morning.
Yeah. And they're typically good about saying, yes, come this way, or no, we're booked, but call XYZ.
They will rotate amongst themselves.
They do kind of rotate among themselves.
We have 3, so we're lucky.
Yeah, we do have 3. We are lucky. They're all kind of in the same-ish area, so you can get to them.
Yeah, they're in a little triangle, and you can just
Yeah.
You're gonna from here. You just head west and
hit 3.
Yeah, and you can call them on the way.
Yeah, always call ahead. Anytime that I am seeing a patient, so I've had a couple like end of day things that I needed to send on, and I have always called ahead, confirmed with them before I send you, so that they know you're coming, XYZ, so that you don't get pushed off to another one. Mm-hmm. And so it's best practice to call them yourself too before you head there.
Yes. Okay.
And once they have a puppy, they should have a puppy about every 30 minutes.
Unless it's a large litter. I've had dogs that will pause for several hours.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Growing up on the farm, you learn some things.
Yeah.
And
I definitely have not owned a dog who's been pregnant.
Yeah. One time, story time. I was a assistant back in the day at a local rural vet, and I adopted a lot of dogs that way because they didn't have shelters, so these dogs would get euthanized if I didn't take them. So I would take a dog, I would rehome it, and then find it a home to go to, and then take the next dog, and so on and so forth. And so this one dog, I bring her home, and then she starts getting real round.
Real pregnant.
Real pregnant. And so, of course, I don't know much about anything at the time. I was 19 or whatever. And anyway, so she has her puppies while I'm at school during the day. And I was like, oh, look, they're so sweet. There's 5 of them. And I go to bed, I go check on them several times. Very exciting. The next morning I come out and I'm like, there's 11 of them. They're even more cute. And so and then of course I've seen that same thing happen many times where sometimes large litters will take a break. But we have tools to help them with that. If I knew then what I knew now, I would have given her calcium and other things. But, I was just trying really hard to...
Maybe take an x-ray to be like, are you done?
Yeah.
Are there more in there?
Yeah.
Is one stuck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there's probably a wide discrepancy between, like, rural farm life vet med versus like this is my family member and it's 2023 and not 1994 anymore, and like things like that.
I wasn't born in 1994.
I was born in 82.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
95. 95.
Yeah, there you go. Just a baby.
I know.
Anyway, so I guess back to other things that are totally emergencies.
Excessive bleeding,
any kind of trauma, really. Like, so hit by car or dog fights where the dog is shocky.
Yep.
And which means, like, they're kind of spaced out, they're panting, they're panicking, there's bleeding, there's trauma. Those are emergencies. You can have dog fights where it's not an emergency.
Couple bites.
Yeah, some punctures, scrapes.
That's okay. You could probably wait.
Yeah. Until the next day. Don't wait 5 days.
Yeah,
please.
do not. Wait until the morning. If it's just like minimal bites and it's on extremities and it's not like on the chest or anything. Hit by car, I would err on the side of probably still take them in somewhere just because you never know. Delayed bleeding.
Yeah, and there's just not really...
Internal bleeding.
Yeah, there's not really any kind of hit by car that doesn't cause suspicious...
Some kind of issue.
Yeah, trauma. So, broken legs, kicked by horse if they break a leg, like those gotta be splinted immediately.
Yeah. Small scrapes or cuts, you can totally wait.
Yeah, even if it's a clean cut. Like, sometimes the dogs will run through the barbed wire and it'll just be like this clean cut and you can like see their muscle underneath and you want to panic as a parent when you see this like pink tissue under there. Mm-hmm. But we can totally fix it the next morning.
Yeah.
It's okay.
You can wrap it, keep it clean.
Yeah. That actually happened when I was also back on the farm. I had a dog run through barbed wire and he had like this little V cut and I could see his little muscle under there and I was freaking out. It was 4:59. I called the vet and they're like, it's fine till morning. I was like, it's not fine. And they're like, it is fine. I remember being upset with them, but in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, they were right.
Fine.
It was fine.
Yeah. I guess keep that in mind though.
Like, snake bites. Those can't wait.
Those can't wait. You need to do something immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Shawnee is an interesting place because we're in the middle. One side is the city, I feel like, and one side is the rural.
Because we serve, a lot of communities around that are pretty darn rural.
Yeah. So it's kind of like all sides for us. So.
Which is why we're so gray.
Yeah, I think so. Because we have a lot of those like classic rural issues, like snake bites. And because I did not see that for 3 years.
Got you.
In Dallas. But I did have people who owned ranches that would come in and get like the snake vaccine. Right. And I tell them, if you still get bit, you need to come in still to a vet, but this is just going to buy you more time to get home from the ranch. Yeah. So,
Which we don't do the vaccine here. I've never needed it.
Yeah.
They do really well as long as you treat them.
Yeah, they still need to be treated.
Yeah, the rattlesnakes, I think, cause more, in my experience, more trauma than the copperheads. Mm-hmm. So I always hospitalize the rattlesnake bites if I'm aware that it's a rattlesnake or, blood work indicates that we should do so. Copperheads usually you can treat outpatient.
Yeah.
So.
Well, recently I feel like I've seen just the copperheads and I've treated them all out.
Where I grew up, it was rattlesnakes all day long. Mm-hmm. But here it seems like copperheads are much more prevalent.
Another emergency, now that I'm thinking about this, because I had a couple, any sting, bite, random allergy that causes swelling that you're like noticing hives. Or hives. If you're noticing the face swelling up, go somewhere. Yeah. Don't wait. Don't give Benadryl and wait. Just because they probably need a little bit of a steroid to knock that back. And weirdly enough, I've seen a lot of scorpion stings the last 2 months.
Yeah, the scorpions have been weirdly
causing a lot of facial swelling.
Weirdly present. Yeah, in this recent fall. I don't know what's up with that.
I don't know either.
Crickets too, but they don't cause problems.
Crickets, ooh.
We digress.
They do cause problems.
If
They're
your dog
gross.
is attacked by a cricket, that should not cause any kind of emergency. You should be fine. Don't go to the emergency room from a cricket attack.
Yeah, but to reiterate, if we're open, call us.
We see all of these things. We do all of these things if we're here. We can't be here all the time.
Yeah,
and I think that was the thing. Just circling back to my time as an on-call vet. Mm-hmm. We ran the stats on it, and Tracy and I were called more than once, 92% of nights, and had to come back up here 70% of nights. Mm-hmm. And it was this town is nowhere near big enough to support a true emergency hospital, but it was big enough, and nobody else was taking call really at the time. And it was big enough that we were starting to die on the inside. Like, I was like, if I'm going to do this for my career, for my life, I have to make this sustainable.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people were really upset when we quit taking call, but I was like, I can either do it this way for 5 more years, burn out and get a new job, or I can send you 35 minutes away to a fully trained, fully staffed hospital and do this for the next 30 years.
Yeah. And at that time, like, the doctors that worked at the clinic did not live in town. No. Like, at all.
No.
So...
Yeah, it was like, I mean, every time you got a call, you knew it was a 2-hour process.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So, yeah.
So that's difficult.
But anyway, so give some grace to your vets who don't do call. Be grateful for the fact that we have emergency call. It's really not that far. It's not that much longer to get to the city than to get some vet out of bed and into the hospital overnight. And then when in doubt, if you just really don't know, use one of those online sources to just troubleshoot, or just call the emergency receptionist themselves.
They will tell you.
Well, yeah. They'll be like, your dog is not sick enough to be here.
Yeah, and that's a free service. So honestly, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Call the emergency hospitals if you're on the border, even before you do any of those vet online things, because they are very, very good about telling you, yes, come, no, you're going to be fine for overnight. Yeah. And give you some resources. So, yeah. And those are going to be Animal Emergency Center, Neil's Veterinary, and
Blue Pearl.
Blue Pearl.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 emergencies that we talked about that are in a triangle. Animal Emergency Center is where we send people typically because it is the one that's 35 minutes away.
Yeah, I really like them.
And I do really like them.
Yeah, several of my classmates actually work there, and I know the guy that started the whole place, and good guy. They do a great job.
They do. They're awesome.
So,
and they're really receptive on the phone, and they almost always answer immediately and answer my questions immediately. So.
Yeah, they're wonderful. So anyway, that's basically it.
Yeah.
And
when in doubt, ask.
When in doubt, ask.
If it's a small little cut or diarrhea started and there's a little bit of blood in it and the dog's acting normal, otherwise, it's okay.
It's okay. He tries to convince himself.
Yeah, I'm always like, just come in. I'm scared.
Dr. James, the worrier of the two of us. Also,
I go, come. If you're scared, I'm scared. Come in. That's my. I'm like, I'm nervous.
Yeah, I just would rather just see this.
I'd rather just see it so that we all feel better.
Yeah, I mean, if we could figure out how to be here all the time, we would be.
Yeah,
that's for sure. We have to kick ourselves.
My wife wouldn't like that, and I would miss my baby.
That's the thing. Yeah. But, if there was, this cloned version of the work
I'd miss my
person.
family.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. It's we want to be here, but we can just only do it so much. Mm-hmm. So it's hard. And it's hard. I hate it when I get a report back from an emergency hospital and one of my pets was sick and I wasn't here. I have this, little part of me that just cries out inside. Yes. Yeah. But I just have to remember that in the long haul, that was the best thing for the pet, so that I can serve it and that family for this whole career of mine instead of just until I die of exhaustion. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, okay. I hope that clears some things up. I don't know if it did,
Maybe.
But
I feel like we just talked.
If nothing else, at least you can see why we all feel like this is hard.
It's so hard. And we literally were talking about it this week. We were like I want to see everybody, but there's certain situations that keep us from doing that. What do I do? That's a constant conversation between all of the doctors.
How do we navigate that?
How do we navigate that? How do we navigate seeing... Because I want to see everybody.
Yeah. If you're worried, we're worried. And
so that can be hard.
And we don't want people to not come to the place that they're comfortable at. And I don't want to trust anybody else with my pets. It was just kind of a personal problem of my own. But
same.
Which is why I like them to go to AC, because I know those doctors. Yeah. But Anyway, so yeah, we get it. We're in the struggle with you. I wish it were different, but this is the reality. Is like we can all only do so much.
Yeah.
So
maybe eventually, Shawnee might get an emergency hospital. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, or at least an urgent care. You know, like a 5 to 9 or 6 to whatever 9. But I won't be running it. I guarantee it. Yeah. I don't.
It's very difficult to run overnight facilities.
Oh my gosh.
And so if we could reiterate that.
Yeah.
And the place in Rochester that I was talking about, the no ERs in Rochester, New York, there was one, but they had to stop because it's very hard to staff it.
Even just going to the 12 hours for 6 months was just, it was just sucking the soul out of us.
Yeah.
So and it would have been different if we felt like it was really offsetting for the community, but we didn't really feel like it was being utilized that much. It was mostly just like overflow of vaccines and broken toenails and stuff.
Yeah, it ended up not being as utilized as we thought it was going to be.
So 6 months was a good run, and we thought, okay, better just preserve self, and so that we're here for the long haul.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, well, that was a fun talk. Call us if you have questions, and if you're ever concerned about your pet.
When you drive by the hospital, look at the new building, because it's crazy. They have windows in it.
It's got windows.
I'm, shocked.
It's wild.
I'm we could go in there today. We could start working.
I mean, yeah, if there's enough natural daylight.
There's nothing.
There's no walls or power.
It's just...
yeah. But it's going to be 4 more months. We should be up and running. Well, yeah, 4 more months.
Hopefully.
They're still saying they intend to be done in April, so that'll be great.
I'm excited.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop.
Okay. All right, guys. Bye.